Friends, welcome to my channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It's not difficult for you, but it's nice for me, and we're starting. My name is Wallace Banks, and my wife is Marion. We are both 45 years old. We can say that we are a middle-aged couple, but I don't think so myself. I run 3 miles a day, eat right, and love my family. Isn't that what a man should do? Take care of his family? Marion has been my rock for 25 years of marriage, and she laid the foundation for it in the couple of years that we dated before we got married. Marion has always been the one who holds our family together. She attended all the weddings, hospital visits, and funerals. And, having gone through all the difficulties and adversities, she remained unshakable as a rock. So why am I sitting alone in our family home now and waiting for the children to return? And that's why. Over the past year, Marion has become somewhat detached. She did not leave the house as often as before and seemed to be constantly immersed in deep thought. At the same time, whenever I asked her what happened, she just waved me off or replied, "Nothing serious." For the past 3 months, I have not ignored her attitude, telling Marion over and over again that we are husband and wife. We've always been there for each other, and nothing will ever change that. And so, for the first time in a long time, she smiled. It melted my heart, relieving it of the painful burden of uncertainty, and I began to think that everything would be fine with us. Marion asked me to sit down and not say anything until she was done. I nodded eagerly and sat down. For the next hour, Marion told me about her feelings. A lot of what I heard was news to me, but I really didn't interrupt her once. She felt that she was stuck in a rut and was losing her identity in marriage. She needed to be herself again. She wanted to live alone for a while so that, as she put it, she could find herself. Marion said that she had been feeling out of place for the past few years. Now that our youngest daughter, Macy, was leaving for college, it was time for her to live her life. Finally, Marion said that she had already found a suitable apartment and would move out the day after Macy went to school. I don't remember the moment when Marion finished her long, wordy speech and left the room. It was as if I had a lapse in memory, and I found myself in a kind of numb stupor. The next thing I remember is Macy leaning over me and shaking me slightly by the shoulder, anxiously asking me what happened. It was already 2 a.m., and she had just returned from a date. When I looked up at her, Macy looked at me intently and, as if she understood everything at once, asked, "Mom told you, didn't she?" I asked her when she found out about it. Macy replied that Marion had told them all about her plans to leave about 3 months ago. I stared at my daughter in shock and asked, "Why didn't she tell me earlier that she knew about her mother's plans?" The daughter looked away and muttered that Marion had made her promise not to say a word to me. Now I felt that not only had my wife trampled on my love, but that my children had betrayed me too. They all knew everything, but they didn't tell me anything at all. Much later, I found out that they all knew something else, but they also hid it from me. But something told me that soon all this shit would come out. Again, I later found out that Marion had been having an affair with another man for 3 years. Her younger lover, James, was 33 years old, and according to her, my then wife felt that this was something she had to try. I didn't think for long. I just decided that such a wife and marriage were not worth fighting for. If she wants to get a divorce and leave, I'll let her, but there's a price to pay. Marion's price will be a house and my pension. Does she want to leave? Okay, so be it. But I'm not giving her the house I paid for just because she wants to move on somewhere. I also refuse to pay for her cheating on me. So you're secretly messing around somewhere on the side, then you decide to leave, and I also have to pay you for fooling me for so many years? What the hell? This will never happen. That's how, with one stroke of a pen, a 25-year marriage came to an end. She left, taking everything that belonged to her personally, or with the things that I left her. On that last day in court, I wished her all the best, left the courtroom and moved forward, continuing to live my own life. It was 7 long years after that day before I saw Marion again. The first thing I did after gaining freedom was to go deep-sea fishing. It became one of the best decisions made in my life. A solitary, peaceful pastime in the midst of quietly rustling blue waves and the perky cries of seagulls. I liked it so much that I sold my old house on the land and used the money to buy a new one on the water. At the same time, I submitted the documents necessary for registration of a pension, cashed out my 401(k)(1) account, and planned some next steps. I had $450,000 in my bank deposit, and at the current interest rate, I was supposed to receive a check for $2,500 a month for the rest of my life. As a new mobile home, I bought a great 25-foot cabin boat. I planned to sail the seas on the waves until I died, or at least until I met a long-haired mermaid somewhere. A man can dream, can't he? As they say, see, romance is what I needed. Life moves pretty fast, and for almost 7 years now, I have been a free mariner, salted by all the winds. I was on vacation, having just completed another 3-month cruise, when suddenly Macy called me. She started asking me how I was doing and where I had been. I asked her in response what exactly was the matter and why she needed me, since her words sounded like she was fishing for information. Then Macy stunned me with the statement that Marion needed my help. In response, I asked my daughter, why on earth did her mother, who had long disappeared from the radar, so suddenly need me and my help? Ding dong number 2. Macy asked if I knew that her mom had given birth to a little girl. I replied that I didn't. Then, when Macy wanted to know if I would sit down and talk to her mother, I cut her off again. No? Then my daughter boiled up with angry indignation in her voice. How can I be so heartless? In response, I asked her, what can you call the so-called family members who knew for 2 months that their mother was going to leave her husband, but none of them said a word about this betrayal to their father? Then I hung up the phone. For the next 10 minutes, the phone rang incessantly. Finally, I got tired of it and turned it off. The next morning, I changed my room and planned my next cruise. This time, my small but wonderfully cozy, especially without the crazy women, boat will rush to St. Thomas and then go to Bermuda. And there, well, after that, I'll come up with some new destination for the trip. On the day when I was about to cast off the mooring lines, my 2 sons appeared on the pier. Mike and Jason looked like they were afraid to speak first, so I invited them on board and offered them a beer. Jason spoke first. Dad, we know we were wrong not to tell you what Mom was planning, but, to be honest, we didn't think that you would suffer for so long. So, I mean it, you spent all your time at work anyway, he muttered. Then Mike joined in, sharing his deep thoughts. Mom was lonely and, well, she made a mistake. Now she needs your help, and you're turning your back on her. I just sat there and looked at them without saying a word. Jason chuckled, looked at his brother and asked, so are you going to say anything? I wanted to make sure they understood my point of view before I set sail. Guys, I don't understand you. Your mom cheated on me, then left. We've been divorced for several years, and now she's had a baby with another man. Am I missing anything? They nodded reluctantly. So what does all this have to do with me? If you remember, I'm the guy you helped keep in the dark at first, and then completely caught off guard. All 3 of you knew what your mother was planning and didn't say anything. Now she's in trouble, but for some reason I'm the bad guy. And anyway, I'm surprised that you found me, because I haven't heard or seen any of you for 7 years. However, I once saw in the newspaper a photo of the 3 of you with your mother and her new husband. It seems that you guys were holding a festive banquet in honor of the opening of the new building at the hospital. Judging by the photo, you all shone dazzlingly, just like brand new dollars, and you were named… Wait a minute. Yeah, I remembered, the happiest family in town. So, I ask you again, why are you here now? They both sat looking at each other rather sourly and not knowing what to say. Jason made up his mind, cleared his throat again, and said, Dad, you know, Karen needs a kidney, and Mom wants you to get tested and take a compatibility test. I asked, I don't understand. Why would I take any tests if Marion's baby has nothing to do with me? In short, I repeat my question once again. Why are you here? Then Jason and Mike completed their betrayal of me. Dad, the thing is, Karen is your daughter. Mom was pregnant before she left you. To say that I was stunned by such news would be a gross understatement. How old is the child? I asked as soon as my eyebrows returned to their proper place. She's 7 years old, Jason replied. And when did you find out about this? I asked. The brothers looked at each other again, and this time I confessed. Mom informed us about this at the same time when she told us about her plans to divorce. I couldn't believe that my boys had grown up to be such ragtag dummies. I always taught them to do the right thing, and they turned out to be such shit. Realizing that there was nothing more to talk about, and it was useless, I got up from my seat, went to the door and opened it. Holding it open, I jerked my head towards the exit and looked at them eloquently until they realized what was the matter. Getting up from the bench, both jumped out onto the pier and disappeared a minute later. I was making final preparations before sailing when Marion herself appeared on the dock. I weighed anchor and was already sailing away from the pier when she accelerated, ran briskly to the edge, and jumped on board. The boat moved about a couple of meters away from the pier when I turned off the engines. I was about to throw her overboard when suddenly a little girl appeared on the dock, calling for her mother. I barked at Marion to get off my boat. In response, like a magician, she grabbed a pair of handcuffs from somewhere and hurriedly chained herself to the deck bollard of the boat, immediately sitting down next to him. "Wallace, I know you hate me right now, but Marion pointed at the girl on the dock, and there was a pleading note in her voice. "I need your help. Karen will die without a kidney. Please don't hurt her because of what I did. I know you're angry, Wallace, but I also know that you are above it." I looked at Marion and said, "No, I'm not the generous person you knew anymore. I'm dead inside, and it's your fault that I became that way. So no, I'm not going to help you or her. Damn it, I never knew about her existence, and I take it you were never going to tell me. So you and our pathetic children are dead to me." While she was crouching, clanking her shackles and whining at the gangplank, I took my axe out of its case and approached her. I was about to cut through the place where Marion had chained herself when it suddenly dawned on me. This could be my second chance to fix what was messed up the first time. "Marion, I've changed my mind," I said. "I'll help Karen in any way I can, but it will cost you dearly." Marion was so happy that I was going to help Karen that she immediately blurted out, "I'll do anything." I moored the boat back, and Jason came with a key to remove the handcuffs from his excited mother. After that, I immediately called my lawyer to explain my plan to him, which he had to formalize in proper writing. The next day, we went to the hospital, me and my lawyer. Upon seeing my representative, Marion started to look a little worried. The doctor took the blood, retired for a while, and then returned with a positive test result. So, I could donate my kidney. Marion was happy, but only until my lawyer told her, and at the same time my older children, who were also present here, my terms. In order to save Karen, they had to officially abandon her. "Marion, all the years that we were married, I always sacrificed something of my own. Neither you nor the children have ever sacrificed anything. It's always been me. When you wanted a new car, I changed mine and bought you the one you liked. When the children wanted something or somewhere, I was the one they did without. I missed them growing up because I plowed like an ox so that they would have the best of everything. And what did I get in return? I was repaid with betrayal, all of you." I waved my hand at my former family huddled against the wall opposite. "And now, Marion, you need my help. Well, now it's your turn to give up something. If you love her, then let the girl go. Or you can try your luck and wait for a suitable donor." Before I could finish, Marion screamed, "I will never give up my child." The lawyer and I got up and, without saying a word, immediately headed for the exit. Jason and Mike jumped up to try to stop me by force. My lawyer warned them in an iron tone that if they laid a finger on me, they would spend the next 10 years in prison. The guys slowed down, but then Macy intervened, shouting, "How will you sleep at night knowing that you are killing our little sister?" I stopped, looked her up and down, and asked, "And how do you sleep at night, knowing that you took and threw away your father? No special worries?" "I'm going to sleep the same way." What happened in the hospital was the beginning of the Third World War. In the next few days, I was almost given a restraining order to leave the country. But I started the engine in time and moved away from the pier to a distance of about 100 meters, where I swayed calmly on the waves, not paying attention to the fact that they waved and yelled at me from the pier. When the bailiff returned in a speedboat sometime later, I turned on my VRRR room. Fast and furious. They would have to chase me along the coast for about 400 miles before I decided to set sail. The lawyer gave up when we somehow reached international waters. Eventually, I stopped about 10 kilometers from the coast. Once in the cellular coverage area, I called my lawyer to find out about the latest news from the mainland. He said that Karen was getting worse and that Marion had expressed a desire to talk. I asked him to arrange a video conference for us. At first, Marion was still begging me not to do what I was talking about. I laughed and said, "It's the same thing you did to me. The three of you conspired and threw me out. So, Marion, if you don't accept my terms, then all I can say to you now is bye-bye." In the end, Marion had to agree to my demands. The day I arrived at the hospital, I arrived with representatives of the Child Protection Service. At the same time, just in case, I hired 2 retired police officers to guard and maintain order. No one but me could pick Karen up from the hospital. The transplant operation went well. On the 3rd day of our stay there, Marion came into my room, accompanied by a man. He introduced himself as James Paxson and turned out to be her current husband. The same lover she left me for held out his hand to greet me, but I ignored such friendly shit and asked bluntly what this couple wanted from me now. It turned out that they had come to pull the strings of my heart once again and put pressure on my sense of compassion. The only problem was that I didn't have either of them left. Marion and the children successfully managed to cut them off. Then her husband changed his tactics and offered me money. It was getting damn funny. For some reason, they thought they could buy me off. Of course, there was a bummer waiting for them here too. On December 4th, 2007, Karen and I were discharged from the hospital. Child Protective Services has charged Marion with interfering with the custody process. Her trial was scheduled to take place in 3 weeks. During our discharge, my guards accompanied us, keeping their hands on their pistol holsters in case something unexpected happened. Karen and I were put in a car and sent straight to my boat. One guard boarded to make sure there was no outsider inside. Despite all the precautions, my sixth sense told me that something was wrong. So as soon as the signal was received that everything was in order on the boat, we set sail and set sail. As we moved away from the shore, Karen whimpered for the first 2 hours, until I beckoned the girl down and opened her cabin. All kinds of Barbies and Bratz dolls that could be found were waiting for Karen there, plus the most modern and cool iPod. A little later, Karen asked me to hold her phone. She shared a secret with me. Her mom said that she would find out where to find her daughter if the phone was on the upper deck. I studied Karen's phone carefully when she ran off to play with her gorgeous new doll girlfriends. Yeah, there was some kind of tricky tracking program installed on her phone. Such a trick was to be expected. Apparently, my gut was whispering about it. So they want to know where we are? Well, I'll help them. I put the phone in a waterproof zip-up bag, attached it to my life jacket, and threw it all overboard. The spy detector will go about its business, and Karen and I think, will go to the coast of Turkey or Greece. Who knows where the tailwind will take us? The epilogue. After some wandering, we eventually ended up in Ireland, where we settled. My daughter and I had a slow start in getting to know each other, but now we're doing well. It's been about 10 years now, and it's time for Karen to go to college. She wants to go to Duke Point too. Recently, Karen wrote to her mother and informed her that she was going to come to study in the States. My daughter grew up to be a caring and attentive young lady. I've already paid for her tuition, so she's ready to go conquer the world. I am a proud father, and I like it. I can say briefly about myself. During the years I spent here in Ireland, I met a wonderful red-haired woman with emerald eyes named Tilia. We love and appreciate each other, and everything is just fine with us. And some news from the States. Jason learned a little more about Betrayal when his mom, Marion, and his wife went to Vegas to have fun. Jason's wife returned penniless, but 100% pregnant. However, it turned out a little later. When she gave birth, the baby looked strikingly like a Mexican. Here they are, and they say, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. They're lying, parasites. Marion also did not sit idly by all this time. After leaving James Paxson, she very prudently moved in with his brother. Yes, Marion has always been a practical woman. Well, tastes are not disputed, as the old saying says. Macy was dumped the night before the wedding. It turned out that her fiancé was a secret homosexual. He just didn't want to admit it ahead of time, until his father gave an oak tree. Mike, well, he's doing just fine, I think. He's the guy who scrapes gum off the walls and platforms on the subway. You've probably seen these successful geniuses in big cities. I won't hide it. I'm glad that life has given me a second chance.